Daniel had my phone in his hand when he called me paranoid. He said it lightly, smiling across the anniversary table as if paranoia were one of my cute habits, like leaving cabinet doors open or reading restaurant menus before we went out. His mother laughed. Then Daniel deleted the message. "Claire does this every few years," he told everyone. "She gets lonely, decides she wants me back, and starts stirring things up." I stared at the empty notification screen. It said she was downstairs. "She used to beg me to come back, too." "That's interesting," a woman said behind him, "because I brought the originals." Claire stood beside the hostess with a weathered gray document box held against her coat. She looked nothing like the photographs Daniel had shown me over the years. In those, she'd been younger, blonde, usually caught mid-laugh and later described as drunk, needy, or putting on a show. The woman in front of us had brown hair threaded with silver and the expression of someone who had rehearsed being calm all the way across town. She looked at me, not Daniel. "The dates don't match," she said. No one at the table moved except Vivian, who placed her napkin beside her plate with exaggerated care. On the table between us, 6 green glass goblets glowed beneath the restaurant's amber lights. One had a fresh chip in its rim. That was how the evening had started. I had opened the dining room cabinet that morning to get the little silver picture frame Daniel liked, the one with a photograph from our courthouse wedding, and found an empty shelf where my grandmother's goblets belonged. I'd stood there in my robe, holding the cabinet door, trying to remember whether I had moved them. The cabinet locked with a small brass key. It wasn't high security. The key lived in a blue glass bowl by our front door with the spare house key, and 2 quarters Daniel always said were for an emergency parking meter. I called him at the warehouse. "Did you take the green glasses?" "What green glasses?" "The goblets from the dining room." There had been a pause. Behind him, I heard the beep of a forklift reversing. "Maybe you moved them when you cleaned." "I didn't." "Then ask Rosa." "Rosa doesn't have the cabinet key." "Okay, Len, I'm in the middle of 3 loadouts. I'll call you back." He didn't. When we arrived at Moretti's that evening, Vivian was standing at the private room entrance in a silver jacket, welcoming our guests as if she owned the restaurant. She kissed Daniel, squeezed both my hands, and said, "Before you get upset, I wanted tonight to feel like family." Then I saw the goblets. She had arranged one at every other place setting among the restaurant's plain stemware. Inside each was a tea light floating in water, the flame refracted through green glass. "They're not candle holders," I said. "They're beautiful," Vivian replied. "You went into our house." Daniel gave me the code. I looked at him. He loosened his tie. It was a surprise. The cabinet was locked. Vivian gave a small shrug. The key was right there in the bowl. Daniel put his hand against my back and steered me toward our guests. "Can we please not make this the thing we remember about tonight?" The thing I remembered, even before Claire arrived, was how naturally his palm had moved me. Not hard enough to call a shove, not gently enough to mistake for comfort. Now Claire set the document box on the empty chair at the end of the table. Daniel rose. "You need to leave." "I will." "You don't get to walk into my anniversary dinner carrying garbage from 15 years ago." 14, Claire said. "That's part of the problem." Marcus, Daniel's cousin and the operations manager at Mercer Event Rental, looked down at his plate. Beside him, my friend Nina held her wine glass without drinking. The rest of the table had gone quiet in the peculiar way people do when they are desperate to hear something and desperate not to look like they're listening. Vivian stood, too. "Claire, whatever you think you're accomplishing, you contacted me. I asked you for one simple statement. You asked me to sign a lie." Daniel's head snapped toward his mother. There it was, the first thing that seemed to surprise him. Claire noticed. "She didn't tell you?" Vivian's mouth tightened. "This is neither the time nor the place." "You chose the time," Claire said. "You mentioned this dinner 3 times in your emails. I mentioned that my son was happily remarried because I thought it might help you understand how inappropriate your bitterness is." Claire opened the box. Daniel reached for the lid, and I put my hand on it first. I didn't decide to do it. My hand simply arrived there. He looked at me. Up close, his face had changed. The easy color was gone from his cheeks, and a small muscle worked near his jaw. "Lena," he said softly, "don't participate in this." It was the same voice he used when a vendor was about to make an expensive mistake. "I want to see what she brought." "Why?" "Because you deleted her message. I was protecting our evening." "From me reading something?" "From this." He pointed at Claire. "Exactly this." Claire removed a bundle of envelopes tied with faded blue ribbon. The gesture felt almost absurdly old-fashioned until she set them down and I saw Daniel's handwriting across the top envelope. I knew that handwriting. It was on the note he left beside the coffee maker every anniversary morning. 10 years, 10 notes, all saved in the back of my dresser. The D leaned forward. The lowercase t's had short, angry crosses. Claire selected one envelope without untying the others. "October 18th, she said. Daniel gave a sharp laugh. "You expect anyone to remember the date of every letter they wrote?" "No, I expect you to remember whether you were still married." Nina lowered her glass. I looked at Daniel. "You said the divorce was final in May." "It was over in May." "That's not what she said. It was emotionally over. Paperwork takes time." Claire slid a letter from its envelope. The creases were soft from being opened and folded more than once. She did not hand it to me immediately. "This belongs to me," she said. "I'm willing to let you read it. I'm not willing to let him destroy it." Daniel's eyes flashed toward my phone. Claire had seen him delete the message. I held out my hand. He said my name again, this time with an edge under it. "Lena." I took the letter. The first sentence was enough. "Claire, please come home before Vivian makes this permanent." I read it twice because the words changed the second time. At first they sounded like a husband asking his wife to return. Then I heard the name in the middle. Vivian. Below that, Daniel had written that his mother was panicking about the company, that the apartment felt empty, that he couldn't fix the accounts and his marriage at the same time. He promised to change the locks. He promised Claire would never again come home to find furniture missing. He promised her salary would stay in their account. Near the bottom, he wrote, "I know you think I chose her. I didn't." I froze. I looked up. Daniel's expression had settled into something almost patient. "May I explain now?" "You told me Claire emptied your apartment." "She did." "I took my clothes and my desk," Claire said. His mother had already taken the dining table, the lamps, our silverware, and half the living room furniture for events. "They were company assets," Vivian said. "They were wedding gifts. We reimbursed you." 11 months later, after mediation. Vivian turned to me as though Claire had become a radio she could lower by addressing someone else. "This is what she does. Every object becomes a wound. Every favor becomes theft." My eyes moved to the chipped goblet. Vivian followed my glance and sighed. That glass was already damaged. It wasn't. Oh, Lena. 2 words. Warm with disappointment. She had a gift for making disagreement sound like a symptom. Daniel pulled out the chair beside me. "Sit down, both of us. We can go through whatever she's showing you, but we're not doing it as a performance." "You were already performing," Claire said. "I'm not speaking to you. You just told a table full of people I begged you to come back." Daniel turned toward her. "You did." Claire untied the ribbon. This time she removed a smaller cream envelope with a green postal receipt stapled to it. "December 2nd, she said. "My response to your 4th letter." "You kept a copy of your own letter?" "I had a lawyer send it certified because you kept coming to my office." "What does it say?" I asked. Claire handed me the copy. It was short. She'd refused to resume the marriage. She wrote that reconciliation would require Daniel to stop giving Vivian access to their home, remove Claire from company obligations, repay money taken from their joint account, and attend counseling without his mother arranging the appointment or receiving updates. The final paragraph asked him not to contact her again except through counsel. The green receipt showed it had been delivered on December 5th. Daniel had told me we met in July, 7 months after Claire's last attempt to win him back. We had met in July. He had asked me to dinner in August. By October, he was keeping a toothbrush at my apartment. The letter in my hand was dated December. I looked at him across the candlelight. He rubbed his thumb along the edge of the table. We were separated. You were asking her to come home. I was trying to end things decently. You wrote that the apartment felt empty. It did. You promised to change the locks. That was about boundaries. We were working through boundaries. Claire made a sound that might have been a laugh if there had been anything funny in it. Daniel rounded on her. You don't get to sit there like you were reasonable. You vanished for days. You froze accounts when we had payroll. You humiliated my mother in front of vendors. I stopped paying your company's bills from my checking account. You knew people depended on us. So does Lena, apparently. The room seemed to contract around my name, Marcus finally spoke. What statement did Aunt Vivian ask you to sign? Vivian sat down. It has nothing to do with tonight. What statement? A clarification for the warehouse renewal. Marcus glanced at Daniel. What clarification? Daniel didn't answer, which told me he knew more than his surprise had suggested. Claire placed an email printout on the table. She wants me to say Daniel was incapacitated during the separation, and that withdrawals from our joint account were made with my consent. She says the lender's attorneys found an old disclosure. That was resolved, Vivian said. Then you shouldn't need my signature. Marcus reached for the printout. Vivian covered it with her hand. Not here. His gaze dropped to her fingers. I had seen those hands thread flowers through chandeliers, repair torn linens 5 minutes before guests arrived, and hold my face when my father died. Vivian could be generous with astonishing precision. She remembered birthdays, allergies, preferred brands of coffee. She also treated every locked door as a personal accusation. Daniel touched my wrist. Come outside with me. I pulled away, not dramatically, barely an inch. He noticed. You asked why she contacted me, I said. I'm finding out. I know why. She wants leverage. Claire looked at me. So do you. I didn't understand until she glanced at the letter. Daniel did. That's enough. He took out his wallet, dropped several bills beside his untouched plate, and looked around the table. I'm sorry. Dinner's over. Vivian protested first. The cake hasn't come. It was such a perfectly Vivian sentence that Nina barked out one startled laugh and covered it with a cough. For half a second, Daniel almost smiled. So did I. That was the cruelty of loving him. Even with a letter in my hand proving he had built our beginning on a lie, I still knew exactly when he was fighting a smile. Then a server entered carrying a white cake with 10 narrow candles already lit. She stopped inside the doorway. Daniel closed his eyes. Vivian stood and began blowing them out before wax could drip onto the frosting. Claire gathered the letters, but I kept hold of the December copy. I need that back, she said. Let me photograph it. Daniel said, absolutely not. Claire looked at him. That's why I brought paper. I photographed the letter, the certified receipt, and the October envelope. My hands were steady until the last image. Then the screen blurred because I was shaking hard enough for the camera to lose focus. Daniel reached for me. I stepped aside. In the car, he didn't start the engine. Rain stippled the windshield. Through the restaurant window, Vivian could be seen directing servers as they boxed the cake. Marcus stood near her with the email printout in his hand. Daniel leaned back and stared through the glass. I should have told you the divorce dragged on. You told me she begged you to come back. She did earlier. Do you have the letters? His silence lasted one beat too long. She called you paranoid, he said. No, you did. I was embarrassed. So you embarrassed me first. He turned toward me then, hurt appearing on his face with an ease that once would have made me apologize. I was trying to keep my ex-wife from detonating our anniversary. Your mother used her emergency key to take things from our house after I said no. That is not the same issue. Claire's message said I needed to know why your mother still has a key. It was for emergencies. Was this morning an emergency? He started the car. At home, the blue glass bowl waited on the entry table beneath the soft yellow lamp. Daniel hung up his coat and walked straight past it. The spare key lay beside the 2 quarters. I picked it up. Did your mother make a copy? He stopped with his back to me. Daniel? No, he said. The answer came quickly, cleanly, and in the same voice he had used that morning when he asked me what green glasses I meant. I closed my fingers around the key and slipped it into my pocket. He waited until we were in the kitchen before he asked me to give it back. The key, he said. Put it in the bowl. I left my purse on the counter. Why? Because that's where we keep it. You know where the other key is. My mother has it for emergencies. Then this one doesn't need to be by the door. His mouth pulled tight. You're turning a bad decision into a referendum on our entire marriage. You deleted a message from my phone. I apologized for that. No, you explained it. Fine, I'm sorry. He spread his hands. I'm sorry I touched your phone. I'm sorry Mom took the glasses. I'm sorry Claire ruined dinner. What else do you need tonight? The kitchen still smelled faintly of the cinnamon candle I had lit that morning. I had planned to come home from dinner, pour 2 drinks, and give him the leather portfolio tucked beneath the sweaters in my closet. He had been carrying the same cracked vinyl one to client meetings for years. Now I wondered whether I could return it without explaining why. I need to know if we were together while you were asking Claire to come home. We were dating. That counts as together to me. I didn't sleep with her. I looked at him. What? He said. That's what you're asking, isn't it? It hadn't been. Not exactly. Daniel could always find the version of a question he was most prepared to answer. Did she know about me? I don't remember. Did I know you were still trying to reconcile with her? We weren't reconciling. I was trying to get closure. You asked her to come home because she had left a mess behind and wouldn't talk to me like an adult. The words landed with an uncomfortable familiarity. He saw it happen. His face softened, and he stepped closer. Lena, I love you. I chose you. Whatever confusion existed then, I have spent 10 years choosing you. Except when your mother wants something I've said no to. That is unfair. So is letting her unlock our house. He rubbed both hands over his face. I'm going to bed. He took a glass from the cabinet, filled it at the sink, and left me standing in the room where we had made most of our important decisions. Paint colors, health insurance, whether to replace the furnace before winter. Daniel was good at decisions when the choices stayed on paper. He made columns. He found rebates. He called 3 contractors and charmed each one into telling him what the others were hiding. With people, he waited for pressure to make the choice for him. Then he called the result inevitable. I put the spare key in the back of my desk drawer. The next morning, there was a note beside the coffee maker. I'm sorry last night was stolen from us. Don't let someone else's bitterness rewrite what we know is true. He had drawn a crooked heart beneath his name. I stood there barefoot, reading it while the coffee dripped. The first part sounded like Daniel. The second part sounded polished, almost rehearsed. I folded the note and slipped it into the pocket of my robe. He came downstairs in a navy suit, kissed my temple, and asked if I wanted eggs. It was so ordinary, I nearly cried. No thanks. You should eat. I'm meeting Claire. He stopped with the refrigerator open. When? At 10. Why would you do that? Because I have questions. And I'm not capable of answering them? You haven't. He shut the refrigerator. You have no idea what she's like when she gets inside a situation. She'll sound calm. She'll give you documents. She'll make everything seem very factual, and then 6 months from now, you'll realize you've been living inside her version of events. That's a specific warning. It's experience. Did she lie about the dates? His jaw tightened. Dates aren't context. He left without eating. Claire chose a coffee shop inside a downtown hotel, the kind of place where people talked quietly because they assumed someone nearby was negotiating something expensive. She was already seated in a corner with the document box beside her. She had 2 coffees on the table. "I didn't know what you drank," she said. "That one's black. This one has enough cream to qualify as soup." I sat across from her. Black. Good. The soup is mine. I almost smiled, which made me distrust her for a second. Daniel had warned me she would be likable. Claire seemed to read something in my face. "You don't have to like me," she said. "I'm not applying for a position." "Why did you really come last night?" She wrapped both hands around her cup. "Vivian's first email arrived 3 weeks ago. I ignored it. Then she sent another one with a statement attached. She said the warehouse renewal had raised questions about an old financial dispute, and she needed me to confirm that Daniel had been under severe emotional strain when certain transfers were made. Transfers from your joint account? And a credit line in my name. It was paid eventually. That's why I didn't want to reopen it." "Why did you?" In her third email, she said you understood how families sometimes had to pool resources. I looked at her. "She used your name like a reference," Claire said. "Proof that the arrangement was normal now." "You could have forwarded me the emails." I did. "The message Daniel deleted?" "No, earlier yesterday. I sent them to an address I found on your design website. My business email had an aggressive spam filter. Anything with multiple attachments from an unknown sender went into quarantine. The text was because you didn't answer," she continued. "Then I saw Mercer Event Rental's anniversary post. It tagged the restaurant. And you came with 14-year-old letters in your car?" "I'd taken the box out of storage after Vivian contacted me." "Why keep them?" Claire looked through the windows toward the hotel lobby. "At first, because I thought I'd need them in court. Then because every year that passed made me less certain I remembered it correctly. That answer bothered me more than a dramatic one would have." She opened the box and removed a file folder. Inside were printouts of Vivian's emails and a copy of the statement she wanted Claire to sign. The language was dry. During the period of marital dissolution, Daniel Mercer had experienced significant emotional impairment. Household withdrawals had occurred with mutual knowledge. Mercer Event Rental had acted in good faith to restore all disputed funds. "What does this have to do with the current lease?" The lender asked about a disclosure from the old dispute. "Vivian wants to make it look like a domestic misunderstanding instead of what it was." "What was it?" "An event company with no cash using the nearest woman as a bridge loan." I sat back. Claire didn't soften it. "I don't know your finances. I don't know what you agreed to. Maybe everything is different with you." "Vivian wants me to put my house behind the warehouse renewal." There was a small pause. "Did you agree?" "Not yet. That's why I came." Anger rose so quickly it embarrassed me. "You don't know me." "No." "You don't know my marriage." "No, but you walk into my anniversary dinner and decide you're saving me." Claire's gaze stayed level. "I decided I wasn't going to help them use me to persuade you." That shut me up. She slid the original October letter toward me in its envelope. The postmark was visible. Daniel's handwriting crossed the paper with an urgency I had never seen in his notes to me. "You can photograph anything," Claire said. "The originals stay with me." I read 3 more. In one, Daniel promised Claire that Vivian would stop taking things from the apartment for displays. In another, he explained that his mother had only used their account because a hotel had delayed paying a large invoice. He wrote, "Once this crisis passes, we can set boundaries that don't punish everyone." My breath caught. "What?" Claire asked. "Nothing." But it wasn't nothing. 6 months earlier, when Vivian had stored 40 banquet chairs in our garage without asking, Daniel had written almost the same sentence in a card he left on my pillow. Once the busy season passes, we can set boundaries without hurting people who depend on us. I photographed the letter. Claire watched me. He does love his scripts. You make him sound calculating. I think he means them when he writes them. That was worse. She showed me a list she had made from old calendars, dates when furniture disappeared from the apartment, dates of Mercer events, dates of Daniel's letters. A walnut table Claire had reported missing on September 9th appeared in photographs from a hotel tasting on September 11th. 2 brass lamps were used at a bridal showcase the following week. It doesn't prove he knew, I said. No, this does. She handed me a letter dated September 14th. Daniel had written, Mom says the table got us 3 bookings, so I can't demand it back this week without humiliating her. I closed my eyes. When I returned home, I went straight to the dining room cabinet. 5 goblets sat on the shelf. The chipped one was missing. I called Vivian. She answered brightly. How is my favorite bride? Where's the 6th glass? A pause. I sent it to a repair studio. Without asking me. I was taking responsibility. I want the name of the studio. They're specialists. The name, Vivian. Her brightness cooled. Daniel said you were upset, but I hoped you'd had time to regain some perspective. Text me the address. Lena, there is a hairline chip. They'll smooth it and you'll never know. I'll know. Then what would satisfy you? Should I leave it broken so you can keep pointing to it? I gripped the phone harder. Send me the address. She hung up. 5 minutes later, a text arrived with the name of a glass restoration shop in Georgetown. The owner had already started polishing the damaged rim. I paid him to stop. He wrapped the goblet in tissue and placed it inside a cardboard box. It'll be sharp, he warned. I understand. You could cut yourself. I'll be careful. At home, I placed the wrapped goblet inside the locked cabinet and put the brass cabinet key in my desk with the spare house key. Then I opened my laptop. Mercer Event Rental's bookkeeping software showed 31 uncategorized expenses, 2 overdue vendor credits, and a payroll transfer scheduled for Friday. I usually cleaned everything up after dinner while Daniel watched television beside me and thanked me by rubbing my feet. I closed the software. Instead, I searched my email for warehouse renewal. There were 12 messages. Most concerned square footage, insurance, inventory valuation, and revised monthly terms. I had read them before, but always as tasks. Find the insurance certificate, confirm the deposit, update the revenue sheet. Daniel and Vivian had trained me to experience important information as chores. One attachment was titled Additional Security Options. My address appeared on page 4. Beneath it was an estimated property value and a type description. Owner-occupied residential asset available as supplemental collateral upon spouse approval. Spouse approval. As if Daniel were offering something that belonged to him and merely waiting for me to make it official. I forwarded the entire thread to my personal email. The front door opened. Daniel entered carrying takeout from the Thai place I liked and a narrow white bakery box. Peace offering, he called. I stayed at the desk. He found me there, saw the renewal document on the screen, and stopped. Why is my house in this package? It's listed as an option. Whose option? Ours. I never said yes. That's why nothing has been signed. Did you give them the valuation? The lender asked what assets were available. My house isn't available. He set the food down. Can we talk about this without treating every draft document like evidence of a conspiracy? Remove it. If we remove it before they finish evaluating the package, we lose negotiating strength. It isn't yours to negotiate with. His expression shifted. Not anger, calculation. We have $80,000 in deposits tied to events beyond the current lease, he said. If the renewal falls apart, we have nowhere to store the inventory servicing those contracts. You told me the company was stable. It is stable. Renewal negotiations are always ugly. Then use a company asset. The company assets are the reason we need the warehouse. It sounded reasonable. That was Daniel's greatest talent. He could build a bridge of reasonable sentences all the way to a place I had already refused to go. His phone rang. Vivian's name appeared on the screen. He answered, turning slightly away. "Hey, Mom." Her voice was loud enough that I heard every word. "Why isn't the spare key in the blue bowl?" she asked. Daniel looked at my closed desk drawer. Neither of us spoke. Vivian said, "Daniel, are you there?" I opened the drawer, took out the key, and set it beside the renewal document. Daniel stared at it. "Tell her," I said, "that it isn't an emergency." Daniel kept his eyes on mine. "Mom," he said into the phone, "why were you looking for the spare?" I needed to get into the cabinet. My hand went instinctively to the small brass key in the drawer. "What cabinet?" Daniel asked. "The dining room cabinet." I was going to return Lena's glass before she made a special trip. "I already picked it up," I said, loudly enough for her to hear. There was a pause. Vivian's voice changed. "You went all the way across town after I had arranged to fix it for you. I asked you not to touch it. You asked me for the address. You didn't tell me to cancel the repair." I told the repairman. "Well, I hope you paid him for wasting his time." Daniel pinched the bridge of his nose. "Mom, we'll talk tomorrow." "I don't understand why the key is gone." "Because Lena moved it." Another silence, longer this time. "I see," Vivian said. She hung up. Daniel placed his phone face down beside the Thai food. "You wanted me to tell her. I wanted to hear what you would tell her. And did I pass? It isn't a test. It feels like one. Everything feels like a test when you've been lying." His chair scraped back. "I did not lie about the key. You said she didn't have a copy. She has the emergency key. You know that. I asked if she had copied one, and she hasn't. Then why did she need the spare?" "I don't know, Lena. Maybe she didn't have hers with her. She was in our house looking for it. She was trying to return your glass. She had no way of knowing I'd picked it up." He opened his mouth, then closed it. The food cooled between us. Through the top of the bakery box, I could see the outline of 2 slices of lemon cake, their frosting pressed against the clear plastic window. Daniel finally sat down. "Can we separate the issues?" he asked. "The key is one conversation. Claire is another. The warehouse is a third. They only look separate if you stand where you're standing." He stared at me for a moment. "What does that mean?" "It means your mother takes something. You explain why she needed it, and then I'm responsible for whatever happens if I don't agree. That is not how our life works. It's how her company works. Our company. No, I don't own any of it. You benefit from it. How? Health insurance, income, half the things in this house. My design work paid for this house before I ever met you." He flinched as if I had slapped something out of his hand. I hadn't said it to establish rank. I said it because the truth had become slippery in that room, and I needed one solid object. Daniel pushed the renewal package away. "I'm removing the house," he said, "tomorrow morning." "Thank you. But if the lender changes the terms, we have to discuss what that means, like adults, not with Claire coaching you from the sidelines." "Claire isn't coaching me. You met her in secret. I told you before I went. You told me. You didn't ask." The sentence sat between us. Daniel heard it. His face changed. "I didn't mean it that way." "How did you mean it?" "I meant married people don't make choices that affect each other without a conversation." I looked at the key between us. He packed his dinner back into the paper bag and carried it upstairs. A few minutes later, the guest room door closed. I ate one of the pieces of lemon cake over the sink. The next morning, I changed the alarm code. I emailed the new number to Daniel and told him I was scheduling a locksmith for the exterior doors. I asked him to collect Vivian's key before the appointment. Then I opened a checking account in my name and redirected the deposits from my design business. I left enough in our joint account to cover my share of the mortgage and household bills. I didn't touch Daniel's money. I didn't take back anything I had already put into Mercer Event Rental. I simply stopped volunteering the next dollar. At noon, I emailed Daniel and Vivian from my business account. Effective immediately, I will no longer provide bookkeeping, vendor reconciliation, payroll preparation, or administrative support to Mercer Event Rental without a written employment agreement. I do not authorize the use of my home as collateral or supplemental security for any company obligation. I read it 5 times before sending it. Each time, the words looked colder. The truth was that I wanted them cold. Warm words had always given Daniel something to hold while he stepped around the point. Vivian called within 4 minutes. I let it ring. She called again. Then a text arrived. After everything this family has done to support your little business, this is deeply disappointing. I read the message while standing in the lobby of a client's office with fabric samples tucked under my arm. The receptionist asked whether I was all right. "Family discount expired," I said. She laughed because she thought I was joking. By 3, my access to the company bookkeeping software stopped working. I tried once, then again. The password reset email went to an address controlled by Daniel. Marcus called 10 minutes later. "Did you change something in payroll?" "No. Vivian says you walked away in the middle of processing it. I sent her a list yesterday of what still needed classification. She says there's no list. It's in the shared finance folder. The folder is empty." My stomach tightened. I didn't empty it. "Can you just sign in and finish the transfer?" They removed my access. He was quiet. "Marcus?" "I'll call Daniel. Ask him to restore the folder from the backup." "You're really doing this now?" This is when they changed the password. You know what I mean. I looked through the glass wall of the office. My client was waiting at a conference table, scrolling through her phone. "I've done Mercer's books for 6 years without a paycheck," I said. "You got paid through Daniel." "That's not a paycheck. Come on, Lena. How much are you owed in reimbursements?" His silence sharpened. "I have a meeting," I said. "Ask Vivian where the finance folder went." That evening, Vivian came to the house 5 minutes before the locksmith. She did not let herself in. She rang the bell and stood on the porch, holding her key in an open palm. "I'm returning this before I'm accused of burglary." "You're being asked to return a key." "Daniel gave it to me." "I know. I've had access to every home he's lived in." "I know that too." Her eyes moved past me into the hallway. The blue bowl was still on the entry table, empty now except for the 2 quarters. "You've made your point," she said. "I'm not making a point. What do you call changing locks on your husband's mother?" "Changing locks." She laughed without humor. "You always did have a talent for making cruelty sound tidy." The locksmith's van pulled up behind her car. Vivian closed my fingers around her key. "The warehouse meeting is Monday. If you withdraw the house now, the lender may require a larger reserve. That could force layoffs. Then the company isn't stable enough for my house to fix it. It isn't about fixing anything. It's about showing strength. With my property, with the family's property." I opened my hand and showed her the key. "This is my house, Vivian." "Daniel lives here." "Yes." "And what does he own after 10 years?" The question was meant to make me feel greedy. Instead, it made me realize how carefully she had avoided answering mine. "His share of our savings, his income, his interest in the company, everything we bought together. But not the home where he sleeps. He knew that before we married. He trusted you." I almost admired the turn. The locksmith came up the walk carrying a canvas tool bag. Vivian moved aside with the wounded dignity of someone allowing an ambulance through. "Tell Daniel I tried," she said. "To do what?" "Keep one bad night from becoming permanent." She walked to her car without answering. The locksmith replaced both exterior cylinders. I gave Daniel a new key when he came home and asked him not to copy it. He looked at the key in his palm. "Do I need written permission to come home now?" "You need my permission to give access to someone else." He put it on his key ring. "Mom thinks you're trying to sink the renewal." "Did you remove the house?" "I told them you hadn't approved it." "That's not what I asked. It's the same practical result. Remove it. They're presenting revised options Monday. I want to attend. It's a lender meeting, not couples counseling. My house is in the packet. I said it isn't approved. Then remove it. He gave me a tired, almost tender look. You're treating the word no like it ends every conversation. It ends this one. He slept in the guest room again. I went to our bedroom and pulled the anniversary notes from the back of my dresser. 10 cards, 10 crooked hearts. I laid them across the bed in order. Most were ordinary and unmistakably ours. Jokes about the leaking dishwasher, a promise to take me to Santa Fe, one apology for spending our anniversary loading chairs after a truck broke down, 3 contained sentences I had photographed from his letters to Claire. A marriage can't survive if every family emergency becomes a test of loyalty. Once the crisis passes, we can make rules that don't punish everyone. Don't let someone else's bitterness rewrite what we know is true. The 3rd sentence was from that morning. The other 2 were years apart. I called Claire. She answered cautiously. Is everything okay? Do you remember him writing about bitterness? I remember him talking about it. Whose words were they? A pause. Vivian's, she said. She used to write his apologies. I sat on the edge of the bed. What do you mean? He'd call her after we fought. She'd help him figure out what to say. Sometimes he copied her emails almost word for word. Did you know then? Not at first. I looked at the cards arranged across the quilt. Why didn't you tell me? Because if I told you everything at once, I'd sound exactly like the person he says I am. It was the most controlled thing she had done. And for the first time, I believe the control cost her something. I'm not putting my house behind the company, I said. Okay. That's all you're going to say? What do you want me to say? I don't know. I'm not going to congratulate you for protecting something that's yours. I closed my eyes. Claire's voice softened slightly. It'll get worse before Monday. How do you know? Because they think Monday is the emergency. Emergencies are when your rules become selfish. After we hung up, I gathered the cards and put them inside my desk with the keys. On Friday morning, Nina called while I was driving to a stone supplier. I need to pause the restaurant project, she said. The restaurant project was 3 months of work and nearly a quarter of my expected income for the season. Why? I don't want to get in the middle of this thing with Daniel. You're hiring me to redesign your dining room. Daniel isn't involved. Vivian says the warehouse renewal could fail because you're withholding documents. What documents? I don't know. Financial things. She locked me out of their software. Nina exhaled. At dinner, you were obviously upset. Yes, and Claire showing up like that was inappropriate. Daniel deleted her message and lied in front of you. I'm not saying he handled it well. You're saying I did this. I'm saying I need the restaurant project to stay uncomplicated. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Send me the cancellation in writing, I said. Lena. In writing, Nina. She sent it 9 minutes later. I pulled into the stone supplier's parking lot and sat there until I could trust myself to go inside without crying. At 6 that evening, Marcus appeared on my porch carrying a laptop and a stack of printed expense reports. When I opened the door, he looked past me at the new lock. I'm not here about the key, he said. What are you here about? He held up the reports. My reimbursements were marked paid, he said. They weren't. I let him inside. At the dining room table, he opened the laptop and showed me 6 transactions. Each had been entered under his name, then redirected to operating expenses. The amounts weren't enormous, but together they covered most of the reserve Vivian claimed the company already had. Did Daniel do this? I asked. I don't know. Who removed the finance folder? Vivian says you did. And you believe her? I believed her this morning. He looked toward the cabinet where 5 green goblets stood behind the glass and the 6th remained wrapped in tissue. Then he pulled a printed calendar invitation from beneath the reports. The warehouse meeting had been moved from Monday afternoon to 9 in the morning. Only Daniel, Vivian, Marcus, and the lender were invited. Across the bottom, in Daniel's handwriting, were 4 words: Lena will sign remotely. "Did he tell you I'd agreed?" I asked. Marcus rubbed the heel of his hand across his forehead. "He said you were emotional about the wording, but you understood what would happen if the renewal failed." "That isn't an answer." "He said you'd sign." I turned the invitation over, although the back was blank. Marcus opened one of the expense reports. "I'm not trying to get involved in your marriage. You're sitting at my dining room table on a Friday night. I'm involved in payroll. So was I until they locked me out." "I know." He rotated the laptop toward me. The missing finance folder had reappeared under a different name. Its backup history showed it had been moved 37 minutes after my email. Vivian's account had moved it. Marcus leaned back. "She said she was protecting the files." "From me?" "She said you were deleting things. I sent you the backup instructions." "I know." He sounded irritated with me, as if my being right had created additional work. I studied the transactions under his name. "Did you submit these expenses?" "Yes." "Did you receive any of the money?" "No." Then, the reserve in the renewal packet is overstated. Temporarily, she was going to repay me after the next hotel deposit clears. That makes it money the company owes you. Tell her that. I have, for 6 years. The front door opened. Daniel called my name, then stopped when he saw Marcus at the table. "What are you doing here?" Marcus closed the laptop halfway. "Trying to figure out where my reimbursements went." Daniel looked at me. "You couldn't wait until Monday?" "I wasn't invited Monday. You don't need to be in the room to say no. But apparently I can say yes remotely." I held up the invitation. He glanced at Marcus. "That was shorthand." "For what?" I asked. "For the likely outcome after we had a chance to discuss it this weekend." "We discussed it." My answer was no. Daniel removed his coat slowly. "Marcus, give us a minute." Marcus's laugh held no humor. "Sure, I'll go ask your mother why she paid $6,000 worth of expenses to a fictional version of me. Nothing was paid to you. Then why does the lender think it was?" Daniel looked at the laptop. His confusion appeared genuine. That no longer comforted me. "I'll call her," he said. "You do that," Marcus replied. "Ask her why the meeting moved too." He left the reports with me and walked out. Daniel stood beside the table, staring at the green glasses behind the cabinet door. "You've turned Marcus against Mom." I asked him if he got his money. "Do you hear yourself?" "Yes, more clearly than I have in years." He pulled out a chair and sat. "The lender gave us 2 possible structures. One uses the house as supplemental security. The other requires a cash reserve we don't have. If we show the house, they may never need to place a lien. Show it to them like a glass in a cabinet? That isn't fair." "You keep saying that whenever I describe what happened." He looked down at his hands. "If we lose the warehouse, we lose the holiday contracts. If we lose those, we sell inventory at a discount. Mom loses most of what she spent 30 years building. And what do I lose if I sign? You won't lose the house. You can't promise that. I can promise I'll do everything in my power. That's what worries me." He recoiled, then nodded as though I had confirmed something for him. "Claire did this," he said. The certainty in his voice stunned me. "Claire didn't put my address in the packet. She made you suspicious of every ordinary compromise. Your mother took money from your first wife's account, and now she's asking her to call it consensual. That debt was repaid after mediation. Because Claire froze everything. Vendors were calling our home. Mom thought she could replace the money in days. And you let Claire take the blame for 14 years. She was not innocent. Neither am I. That doesn't make your dates true." He stood and paced to the window. "What do you want? Do you want me to call everyone from the anniversary dinner and announce that I wrote letters to my estranged wife while dating you? Will that make you feel less humiliated?" I folded the invitation and set it beside Marcus's reports. No, I said. I want you to stop using my humiliation to hide yours. He slept in the guest room with the door locked. Claire brought the document box Saturday afternoon. She had placed each letter in a clear sleeve and added a signed note stating that the lender could review them for the limited purpose of evaluating Vivian's proposed statement. You don't have to leave the originals, I said. They asked me to rewrite what happened so they could get money, she replied. I want them to look at the dates. What if they get damaged? Her mouth tilted. You sound like me. I set the box on my desk beside Daniel's anniversary cards. Claire noticed them but didn't ask. Did he know you were coming here? I said. No. Are you enjoying any part of this? She considered the question long enough to make the answer matter. I enjoyed watching Vivian blow out your candles. A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Claire smiled, then looked toward the dining room. Are those the glasses? I opened the cabinet and showed her the chipped goblet wrapped in tissue. My table had a burn mark, she said. Vivian put a lamp over it whenever clients came. She told me the chip was already there. She told me the table belonged to the company. For a moment, we stood together looking at the 5 perfect rims and the sharp 6th. I don't want to become you, I said. Claire's face did not change. The second the words left my mouth, I wanted them back. I'm sorry. No, you aren't. Not yet. She closed the cabinet. You mean you don't want to lose years of your life proving something you already know? What do I know? That when he has to choose who absorbs the damage, he chooses the person most likely to forgive him. She picked up her coat. Claire. She paused. Were you ever begging him to come back? Once, she said. The answer surprised me. After I left, before the letters, I called him from a hotel and asked him to come get me. He said his mother needed him at a corporate dinner. She looked at the box. By the time he started begging me, I understood what he was asking me to come back to. Monday morning, Daniel left at 7:30, wearing the navy suit he used for lender meetings. He paused at the front door. You can still send me a statement saying the house is available for discussion. It isn't. We may not come back from this. I know. I mean us. So do I. He waited for me to stop him. Then he left. I wore a gray dress, put Claire's document box in my car, and arrived at the warehouse at 8:45. The conference room overlooked rows of stacked chairs, rolled carpets, folded bars, and chandeliers hanging inside muslin covers. I had spent years helping turn that inventory into numbers other people would trust. Vivian was pouring coffee for Marisol Grant, the lender's relationship manager. Daniel stood beside a screen displaying the renewal packet. Marcus sat at the far end of the table with his laptop open. Vivian's hand stopped over the sugar bowl when I entered. This is a closed meeting. Marisol looked from her to me. Mrs. Mercer? Lena Mercer. The house on page 4 is mine. Marisol indicated an empty chair. Please sit. Daniel's face went still. I told you her approval was pending. You wrote that she would sign remotely, Marcus said. That was an internal note. About her signature, Marisol replied. I placed Claire's box on the table. Vivian stared at it. Those letters have nothing to do with the company's current position. You made them relevant when you asked Claire to sign a statement about the old dispute. I asked her to clarify a misunderstanding. I handed Marisol the emails and Claire's authorization. Daniel touched the back of the chair beside him. Lena, this isn't necessary. I've already removed the house from the primary proposal. Is it in any proposal? He didn't answer. Marisol turned to page 4 and drew a line through my address. It is removed. 3 words. No thunder, no collapse, just ink across a page. My knees weakened beneath the table. Vivian leaned forward. Without supplemental security, the reserve requirement becomes punitive. The reserve is my other concern, Marisol said. Mr. Mercer provided revised reimbursement figures this morning. Marcus slid his reports across the table. Vivian didn't look at him. Those were timing adjustments. They were listed as paid expenses, Marcus said. They will be paid. That isn't the same thing. Daniel opened one of Claire's letters. His own handwriting faced him through the clear sleeve. Marisol compared the date with the statement Vivian had drafted. This correspondence describes active decisions about company finances during the period Mr. Mercer was supposedly incapacitated. It was an ugly divorce, Vivian said. People use imperfect language. You said Claire begged you to come back, I told Daniel. He looked up sharply. We are not doing this here. This meeting depends on the story you told about why her account was used. I didn't prepare that statement, but you were going to let her sign it. I thought it was accurate. Your letters say it wasn't. Vivian pushed back from the table. He was trying to save his marriage and this company at the same time. I made decisions because no one else would. Claire abandoned us in the middle of a cash crisis, and now Lena has chosen the precise same moment to discover principles. There was the emergency, right on schedule. My rules transformed into selfishness by the pressure of her voice. I felt the old urge to explain, to list the nights I had reconciled receipts at 1 a.m, the deposits I had covered, the client dinners I had cooked while Vivian accepted compliments for the flowers. I let the urge pass. I won't pledge my house, I said. I won't certify a reserve that includes unpaid obligations. I no longer work for Mercer Event Rental. Vivian looked at Daniel. Say something. He did not look at her. Marisol closed the packet. The current proposal cannot be approved on the terms submitted. We can discuss a smaller facility, a reduced inventory structure, or additional guarantees from the company's owners. The company's owners, Vivian and Daniel. The meeting continued for 40 minutes. Numbers replaced accusations, a warehouse half the size, inventory liquidation, contract transfers, personal guarantees from Daniel and Vivian. None of it was fatal. All of it was expensive. Outside, Daniel followed me to my car. You humiliated me in there. At dinner, you called me paranoid while deleting proof. That was cruel. I know that now. You knew it then. You just thought it would work. He put both hands on the roof of my car and lowered his head. I was ashamed. Of writing to Claire? Of needing her? Of letting Mom use the account? Of dating you before it was clean? Every year I didn't tell you made it harder. So you turned her into someone whose truth didn't count. His eyes filled. I love you. I believe you. That seemed to hurt him most. I need you to come home, he said. You're already home. I need you to leave it. The warehouse emptied in sections. Velvet chairs went first, then the oversized bars and half the chandeliers. Mercer Event Rental moved into a smaller building near the Beltway and gave up the hotel contracts it could no longer service. Vivian sold her silver SUV and complained that the replacement van smelled like rope. Marcus stayed after Daniel gave him control of reimbursements and repaid what the company owed him. He never apologized to me for believing Vivian. He did send every missing finance file in a single organized folder, which was closer to honesty than an apology would have been. Nina hired another designer. I lost the project and kept the cancellation email. Daniel rented an apartment 20 minutes away. We attended 3 counseling sessions before he admitted Claire had never pursued him after her certified letter. She begged once, he said. I turned that into the whole story. Why? Because you forced me to look at it. I took off my wedding ring. Even then, he made the truth something I had done to him. Claire collected her document box on a rainy Thursday. At the door, she checked the sleeves, tied the faded blue ribbon, and tucked Vivian's emails into the side folder. Is that everything? She asked. It's everything of yours. She nodded. We did not promise to keep in touch. After she left, I took the chipped goblet to a restorer who filled the missing crescent with gold-colored resin. The repair made it unsuitable for drinking, which felt honest. I brought it home and set it in the blue glass bowl by the front door. I dropped the 2 quarters into a parking meter the next morning. The goblet held one new key. Mine.